Final topic of the day, as always, brought to you by you over on the Kind of Funny forums. You can go to kindoffunny.com/Gamescast topic.
Is this
Leave
not
your
an,
topic?
Is there a Steven Insler shout out on this one?
No, it wasn't on the calendar.
Is it just because we haven't updated the Patreon
We
pages?
might not have updated it.
I-
Shout out to Steven Insler for once again.
I'll go check the page. I'll go check the page right now.
What?
I'm sure he did.
I'll give him a bonus one if he
this is
didn't.
fine.
He deserves it.
Yeah, I was going to say,
deserves
you
it.
get
Thank
a
you.
shout out for free. just in
Unless his wife finally, went in and canceled the credit cards now that he died 14 months ago.
Shout out to Steven Insler for supporting us so much here on the Kind of Funny Gamescast. You are
the
the
homie.
coolest dude in the entire world. If you want to be a cool dude, you can go to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, blah, blah, blah.
Metroid.
Nice.
There you go. It took you a while to warm up to this thing because I was waiting for the this is kind of cool.
No, it is great.
is kinda cool.
Well, I try not to stare at the camera too much, or the screen rather. And then when I see something I saw the enemy from Kid Icarus, I was like, okay,
what is that?
really cool.
Definitely check out Orioto's work. It is fantastic.
I
There's a
feel
link
so
in the
bad because we
description.
we hide so much of it. I should say.
I know. Well, that's the
this
thing
just
is-
looks like a cliff.
But I know,
over
but
there.
if you want to go see more, you can go check out the link in the description, and it's a great time.
There it is, everybody.
There it is.
Metroid.
Samus himself.
Metroid himself.
Samus himself.
All right.
He's just a blur.
First question
I'm fingering Metroid.
comes from Justin G. What are your best Sega Dreamcast memories and stories? Because on the day that we're recording this, it's the 17th birthday
Oh wow.
of the Dreamcast. 9999. Never forget.
Fucking Dreamcast, man. I loved the Dreamcast. I had my brother's best friend PJ had a Dreamcast from Japan before it came out in the States, and so I messed around a lot with him, and then it compelled me to get one of my own. 9999. I remember that date very well. It was the same day as the VMAs that year. I remember because that was also like a 9999 advertisement for it or whatever. The Dreamcast was special, and I think really ahead of its time. I'm no Sega fan, but that console gave me a couple solid years of a lot of entertainment. I bought a lot of Dreamcast games, and I played it a lot. It was the first console I went online with and played with people online, and I played NBA 2K pretty much exclusively online. Crazy Taxi and Soul Calibur and a few others, Power Stone. These were pivotal seminal games of their time. And the Dreamcast just came out at a strange time. The PS1 was still going very strong. N64 still had games coming out for it. This was Dreamcast came out in between Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. It came out before or right around before Final Fantasy 9 came out. So this was around a time when these other consoles were still going strong, and we already knew PS2 was coming. So it was doomed to fail. I think I kind of feel like everyone knew that. We knew PS2 was coming 2000. We knew that it was gonna have a DVD player in it. We knew all these things. I think that PS2 was clearly going to murder it. I just didn't think that it was going to be as bad and as bloody as it was. And by April 2001, it was discontinued. So it didn't have this long life in the States, but I bought the shit out of I had a lot of Dreamcast games. I really liked that console, and I think the controller was great. I think the
Really?
Yeah, I think the because I love the VMU. I thought there was a lot of clever shit going on in that console that was maybe not ergonomic, but super ahead of its time. And it came out so quickly after Saturn. People didn't believe in Sega anymore. Sega kind of started to suck.
It had Seaman, though.
At
did have
Seaman, which
Seaman.
my friend Cody was obsessed with.
I mean, my memory is that I was a Sega kid. I was Master System, Genesis, Game Gear, Saturn, and Saturn's the one that broke me. And where I was like, I fucking burn that place down and salt the earth. I'll never support them again. And so when Dreamcast came out, my Dreamcast memory is our high school was across the street from Target. And so when I had time to kill after classes or whatever, I'd go across to Target and play fucking Crazy Taxi demo there. And I remember talking to Mike O'Brien in study hall. I'm like, I'm thinking about getting a Dreamcast. He's like, dude, the PlayStation 2 is out in it was 99 days or whatever. And he's like, you're going to get that. Just wait. Just get that. You're going to be fine. Just get that. And he was right. And so I never bought a Dreamcast. None of my friends bought Dreamcasts. I didn't even see a Dreamcast, somebody playing it in reality until freshman year of college when my friend Nick Reese was sitting there and he was playing, I think, NBA 2K, whatever it had been. And he was still playing that over and over and over again, playing online against somebody. I was like, oh, cool. Glad somebody's playing this fucking thing. You know what I mean? And that was it. That was it until I got to IGN and they had those CD books that were just filled with Dreamcast games, and everybody always wanted to play Choo Choo Rocket at lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Choo Choo Rocket. That was a game.
I'm trying to just find the information because I don't want to misspeak, but I think it's true. Let me see. Where is it? Yeah. So fewer than 10 million units sold, which I knew. I thought it was more closer to 10 million. It's actually closer to 9 million units. So a complete commercial failure. For context, Wii U sold more and Vita sold more than Dreamcast. So but also not on the market for a very long time. Came out in 1998, I want to say, in Japan, and then 99, obviously, in the West. I feel like it was just too soon. I feel like if Dreamcast was a little more, marinated a little bit more, spaced a little bit more from Saturn, which wasn't alive anymore really, but people remembered it still and its failure and the reek of its failure. It might have had a better chance of success if it actually came out closer to when GameCube and Xbox came out.
I wonder, man. I think it was doomed from the start, just based on its library and what the direction that it went. Like they're kind of doing what Sony is doing now, in the sense of like they really focus on the more obscure games, like the RPGs and the really Japanese stuff, and people love those games, but not enough people buy those games. You know,
what was that game that Jared Petty loves? Sega? Which was like that weird role playing game about Sega.
Yeah.
It was I don't know that it was going to do any better. Remember that PS2 sold 150 million units. GameCube and Xbox combined for like not even 50 million. So it's they got slaughtered.
Yeah.
Dreamcast might have been in that race as well. I just wonder, living in PlayStation 2's shadow before the PS2 came out, I think was a really bad way to be, as opposed to living in its shadow after it came out. Because what I really think what happened, and this is my honest opinion about PS2, is that like that thing came out and it was cool and it had cool games. The launch library sucked. We didn't get a good game, like a really must-have game until the next year. Onimusha was really the first major AAA game worth anything on that console. And I think that if it came out in that window where people were like, it's a good DVD player, and that's why it sold so many copies, because it wasn't selling 150 million units around the world for its games. I just feel like PS2, I don't know, like it's my least favorite PlayStation console. So I just feel like I think PS1 and PS3 and PS4 are all better than it. Like the GameCube dominated that generation from a quality standpoint in my mind, and like not even close. And so I feel like Dreamcast could have fit in that niche where maybe it wouldn't have done 30 million, but it could have done way better than 9 million. I really do feel like it just came out at a time when there was no reason to move on from PS1 and N64.
I feel like it only succeeded as much as it did because it came out when it did, and it was this new, fresh thing, and it was the first next gen system. So like that gave it that kind of boost. Like I remember being super bummed that I couldn't get one. I never owned one. I only played it at other people's houses, and I was so upset because I wanted to play Sonic Adventure. Like when looking at the previews of that, then I played Sonic Adventure and realized I didn't want that. But my problem with the Dreamcast is I am one of the what now feels like minority, but I'm definitely not, where I don't care for the Dreamcast at all. I don't have these fond memories about it, and I think that in a lot of ways, I hate the controller. I think it was trash. I think a lot of they ruined a lot of franchises on that system. But looking back now that there's such a zeitgeist of people that like are so vocal about loving the Dreamcast, I think in a couple of years the Wii U is gonna be the same way, where it's like I'm one of the few guys like standing up for that library, but like I understand that the system sucks.
Yeah, I don't know that I would necessarily stand up for the Dreamcast. I liked the controller because I thought the controller's construction was really cheap. They were actually really easy to break. Crazy Taxi was a game, especially using the triggers, you can break the shit out of that controller, and I knew people that broke a lot of them. But I liked that that controller was ahead of its time, and I think that's a really, just like putting a fucking foam port in the back of your console was ahead of its time. I think it came out too soon. Like I don't think the market was ready for it. Like I don't think that the market knew what to make of this device, and I really do like PS1 was still murdering when it came out. N64 was dying, but there were still games coming out for it that were of relevance. And we didn't quite know about Project Dolphin yet, and what Microsoft was really doing at that time. We knew about PS2, so I just think about that. Remember that the dominance of PS1 was the reason everyone was anticipating PS2. So it's really a terrible choice either way. But I really do feel like if they just didn't half bake it the way they did, because they did half bake it. If you read about it, I mean, it's like a total fucking mess. I mean, they had a different console in between those two consoles. They never released the Pluto, which is some sort of fucking Frankenstein console. You guys can go read about the Sega Pluto. Yeah. It's a weird thing. But they were desperate. And if they showed a little less desperation and a little more quality control, I think what killed the Dreamcast too is that like you could just flagrantly fucking pirate games. Like it was a not even with Dreamcast and all that kind of stuff. Like you could
Just straight
just
up
do
just
whatever
put
the
the
fuck
game
you
in it,
wanted.
yeah.
It was like an incredible. There was nothing on that machine that was stopping people from doing it, and I think that was another.
PS1 was also extremely easy to.
You still had to
do
use a
that with.
spring and put something in the fucking parallel port and all that kind of stuff. It was a little harder.
Some obstacles.
And you had to do a thing with the PS1. I remember it was like you put a spring in the circular thing so that it thought
Yeah,
the
so
case
that
was
when it
shut.
came down, but-
then you took a real disc and you put
it
a thing in the
you
back.
had to load
He
it up,
started it,
And then you
switch
took it out while
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
spinning and put the other disc in.
Yeah.
It's like this doesn't seem right.
For all the shit that I've talked about Dreamcast in the last couple of years, like I obviously have seen a lot of people like push back on that and tell me why they love it. I feel like I finally am starting to understand, and like I finally am looking at the library games that they're talking about. I'm like, you have a point. You do have a point, and I think that Dreamcast did a great job of replicating the arcade experience at home, and that's something that the Super Nintendo was like. That's why it won, was
Yeah.
because you could play Street Fighter at home, and things just changed in the late 90s, where arcades were slowly being beaten by console games. And with the Dreamcast having Soul Calibur, having Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and having them play just like they did in arcades was such, like using I forgot what's called, the Naomi board, I think it was, that the system used.
I don't know.
And it was the same system they used in the arcade. So it's like, it was.
Oh,
this-
MAME? Is that what you're?
No, it doesn't matter. They use
I
the
don't know much
same
about
the
that
same
stuff.
board, and so then being able to have those experiences at home, like I remember being super jealous that I couldn't play. Like I loved Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but I couldn't play it at home. Years later, it came out on Xbox and PS2, but the Dreamcast, they had it. You know, Crazy Taxi is another
Hell
example of
yeah.
that.
Yeah, Crazy Taxi was
Power Stone.
fantastic.
These are all arcade games that they translated perfectly to the console, and so like when you look at it I'm looking at having had a PS2, having been able to play those games later, playing those games in arcades, whatever. But it's like if I had a Dreamcast since day one and I had all those games as they were coming out, I think I'd look back at it a little bit differently.
More fondly.
I judge it mainly on the Sonic Adventure games, which to me are an insult to Sonic.
A spat in your face.
And then a lot of other games that I didn't get into or play, like Shenmue does nothing for me, but I respect it. It does a lot for a lot of other people. So
Yeah, Shenmue was an important game to a lot of people. There was a lot of Skies of Arcadia. There was a lot
Skies of Arcade, but then again, I see that to me as a GameCube game.
Yeah, that came to GameCube, and that it does have it has a very overblown library of games. Like people make it out to be way more than it is. I don't agree that it's like this incredible.
Just like they will with the Wii U.
Just this incredible category
And
of
the Vita.
list of games.
Thank you.
But I think
Yes.
the Dreamcast. I think the Dreamcast deserves a second look from a lot of people. I think it's a really great console.
Jake at Hoy Hoy Jake says, Colin, what do you want to see from Matterfall?
We talked about this recently, right? I already have a theory about how the game works, and I don't have any inside information because I do, candidly, I do know the guys at Housemarque, and I'm friends with a couple of them. My assumption, this is what I assume Matterfall is, and I think we talked about it on Colin Greg Live or somewhere.
For a quick recap,
Yeah.
Matterfall, the game coming from Housemarque, the people who did Resogun, Dead Nation, etc.
Right, this is their game they announced. I don't know when last year at PSX. No, I don't remember where they announced it. We got like a pre-rendered trailer showing a guy with a gun like running as things are like happening around him or whatever. My assumption is that it's true to Housemarque's name. It's going to be an arcade experience, cylindrical like Resogun, so like a Defender inspired game. Instead of using a ship to shoot things and go whatever, like platforms are appearing and disappearing, and it's a platformer, and you're shooting and whatever, and things are Matterfall. So it's like things are coming and going around you, and you have to keep moving. That's what my assumption of the game. That's what the game is, and that's what I hope it is. That sounds fucking cool. Mm-hmm. They're masters. They know what they're doing. I think Alien Nation was a miss, and but by their standards, that just means it's a good game.
Exactly. Yeah, not broken, just not.
And so I think that they need something like this, and I think that this is probably the natural continuation of Resogun. I think we'll figure that out and they're probably connected in some way. All their games are connected because of the woman's voice.
SMG.
Yeah, so that's what I hope Matterfall is. I'm stoked about it. I'm surprised that they've been holding it close to their chest. My hope is that they announce it and release it like very quickly, but we'll see.
Luma Dream wants to know, what do we think the most played genre in video games is?
MOBA.
You'd have to think MOBA or first-person shooter, like between the two of those.
See, that's the thing. I was going to say first-person shooter because first-person shooter just has more legs in terms of years on MOBAs,
Yeah.
right? MOBAs are huge right now, and people playing, but they think of like a a Bobby Amos or Alfredo going home and playing Call of Duty over and over and over and over and over and over. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Counter-Strike Go, by the way, 23 million copies. I couldn't believe it when I saw that number. I was like, wow. And they think that it can pass, or that it has a possibility of passing Minecraft's PC numbers.
And I think there's more first-person shooter people playing more hours than there. And maybe your average mobile player plays more than your average first-person shooter player. But I think when you talk about the quantity of FPS players,
with Counter-Strike Go, does that include PC?
That's what I was saying. That was, I think, only PC sales.
Oh,
and that's what they were saying. Like PC pound for pound, they might outsell Minecraft on PC.
Damn.
That's what they're saying. That's what their hope is, because that game has legs. I mean, just like Minecraft, but it seems like Minecraft's kind of, I don't want to say sputtering because that's not true, but not quite as prolific as it's selling eighth best in the United States every month instead of fourth. So, but those are console sales.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I would say it's got to be MOBA, like right now, not historically, but like right now. I bet you the predominance of people play MOBAs.
Luma Dream says, what Sony franchises should get the Pokemon Go treatment? My pick would be Ape Escape.
Jesus.
I mean, Invisimals is the obvious
Invisimals
one,
already there, and it was y'all slept on Invisimals. You didn't help it on the PSP or the Vita. So
that's what's so funny is that Invisimals actually is literally doing what Pokemon Go does now, but I never give a flying fuck about Invisimals, so I didn't even.
Well, because it wasn't easy, right? It was boot it up, do this, buy the camera, have your little fucking card to throw down, so you can do that shit or whatever. Like nothing.
Yeah, I didn't even when people were sending those screenshots around. I'm like, I didn't even know that Invisimals was doing this. I didn't even know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like, I don't care.
I remember being so stoked, not for Invisimals, but for the Yu-Gi-Oh game that was going to bring us, and then it never brought us.
I kept assigning Jack DeVries Invisimals reviews for IGN PlayStation.
That's hilarious
because he loved it.
Yeah, I don't know. Sony is going to aggressively apparently get involved in mobile gaming now. Now that they've released mobile games, we had an Uncharted game and a Sly game.
The Uncharted game was awesome, by the way. It was in between travel and Gamescast, so we like doubled up on it, but it was fantastic. It was essentially Square Enix Montreal game, so it was like Deus Ex.
Oh, nice.
Deus Ex Go and Lara Croft Go, but with Uncharted, which is like, all right, cool, even better.
Yeah. I bet there's got to be something.
Highly recommended.
For a mobile game, there's got to be some Sackboy thing you can do. If Sackboy, again, we talk about, has relevance outside of Little Big Planet, people do care about him as a little character mascot and toys and Toys R Us. Like, there's got to be something. Somebody over there is scratching their beard, drinking some.
Yeah, he had a mobile game too, right? Wasn't it Run Sackboy Run or something?
Yeah, Sackboy Run, yeah.
Him bringing up Ape Escape, I feel like that could be fun. Not necessary, but fun.
Not necessary for sure, yeah.
Do you guys like Ape Escape?
Yeah, Ape Escape was fine. I think it got a little long in the tooth, but I like Spike and All Stars especially. So.
Oh, okay.
He was my dude. He was awesome.
He's your dude?
He was great.
Yeah. Another one that, for real, for a mobile game for them to make, not in the Pokemon Go thing, but Buzz. They still that Buzz trivia franchise.
That studio shut down.
Yeah, but I don't think it is I don't think it needs to be nearly as complicated, right? As just a trivia game you play and you sync up with your friends there and stuff. Because think about it, every time we're at not every time, but how many times I've been at a bar or whatever and you see people playing that thing where they put the card against their heads. Yeah. Just make it super simple trivia where you all Bluetooth in and you're all playing and Buzz is there doing his little shit.
Doing his little shit.
Hey, I'm Buzz.
Final question comes from KBW, AK47. Do the Game Awards really matter at the end of the day? Do you guys think that it doesn't need to exist?
No and yes, but I think that obviously it has an audience or it wouldn't. So that answers that question for me. I mean, I wouldn't care if it existed or not, but people clearly do.
Yeah, that's the thing is I think do they have is there a point to them existing? Yeah, I mean I think it is that we are an industry that doesn't talk to each other enough and doesn't celebrate the good enough, and it does appear to be negative all the time. So to have one place that is the show for the most part, because there's GDC awards and there's E3 stuff and there's Judges Week and then there's every site doing their own little thing. To have one place that is, hey, everybody come together for one night and watch this, because even if you're gonna watch it and fucking hate talk about it, you're watching it and you're communicating. And to Jeff Keighley's credit, and again, full disclosure, like we're friends with Jeff, you know what I mean? Whatever. Like I think every year it gets better. Like, yeah. I think he does care. I think Jeff is a legit gamer and a legit dude, and I think he does take it every year of like, they didn't like this. They didn't like this. I think getting away from Spike was a huge move of, okay, cool. Now I can make the show I want to make.
Yeah.
And year after, 2 years now in a row of doing it on his own, getting to see what it looks like and how it goes. I think it is a good thing. Does it matter? No, it could get blinked away tomorrow and like industry wouldn't be rocked to its core or something, but it is a cool place to debut a cool trailer and talk about an announcement and then sit here and go, hey, we like these people and we're going to honor them. And it still is too that the board is made up of people from IGN and GameStop and GameSpot and all these different, sites that have an editorial voice. That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it needs to happen. I don't think a lot of things need to happen, but I think that
This show doesn't need to happen.
This show doesn't need to happen, definitely. But I think that it's very good to have, and I think that it gives video games a level of credibility, not in the like journalistic way, but just in the sense of like these matter. Like we can talk about these in the same way we can talk about music or movies. To mainstream people. Like the Game Awards last year when you won, I showed a lot of my friends that video and they were blown away. They're like, "Whoa, that stage, like that! I can't."
That looks like a real thing.
People talking about video games on this, like that,
Yeah.
and people are talking about people talking about video games on this. Like Greg Miller's winning an award for being the trending gamer, which means what, But then
Don't know.
But when you think about it, though, it's like that. It's explaining that type of stuff, though.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
teaching people that story in a game is something that deserves an award. The soundtrack is something that video games have, and it's like. Feel like we all know that,
Right?
But it's about the people that don't, and I think that for the us's out there, they give us trailers. Like Game Awards has been fantastic about debuting stuff. Last of Us debuted there, and it's like where else is it going to?
That Batman Telltale game announcement.
Like Game Awards now are like that's something I'm looking forward to at the end of the year because we get announcements out of that.
Yeah.
There's very few things every year now that we get a whole bunch of announcements and where you're expecting surprises. The only other thing is E3.
Yeah.
Besides that, it's like Gamescom, TGS, PSX, like all the conferences, of which now there's one every single month. You can kind of expect what we're going to get from all of those.
Yeah.
But the Game Awards, you're expecting some big reveal. You're expecting Nintendo to be there. You're expecting Kojima to do something. And that's awesome.
And you figure it's exposure too, right? I mean, for as many people as us doing a Let's Play of Emily is Away or her story or something, there's millions that have no idea what the fuck that thing is. So they're there to watch and see the next giant AAA trailer, but they get to see her story win Best Acting or whatever. Like, all right, cool. What's that about?
No, man, I think it's very, very good. And I think that the direction, like you said, every year it gets better and better. Like you got to work out the kinks. Things are never perfect the first round. And, especially with Jeff Keighley, he gets so much hate for being this kind of overproduced guy. But I think that he is really guiding the ship when it comes to overproduced stuff in our industry, which allows us to do this shit and like have it be the weird mix of production mixed with shenanigans.
Yeah.
And I think that it's cool that there's someone else that's thinking the way we think. I think it's really important that people at least give them the time to pave this path, because I think in a decade we're going to look back at it and it's going to be so clearly drawn where you can look back to the Game Awards and be like, that was the
template. That's where we started from.
The template, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us again on this beautiful episode 86 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Thank you guys. I felt good about this one. Until next time.